Welcome to Insights in Sound, where we talk to the people behind the scenes, behind the technology, and behind the music. People you may not know, but you should. And please check out insightsinsound.com for a full list of our podcasts and YouTube series.
And big thanks to our sponsors, Mackie, Roland, Mojave Audio, Ozbot.
I'm here with Josh Rogosin. He is the creator of Global Sound Concerts. I guess you're best known for Tiny Desk stuff.
That's right.
But let's back up even further than that a little bit.
Yeah.
Because we were just talking earlier, your audio background, even though you're best known for recording music, your audio background was really more location-based stuff, I guess, right? Or journalistic?
That's right. The first 15 years of my career, I actually spent recording and telling stories, sort of documentary style, ENG recording, learning about different stereo sound gathering techniques to tell stories on the radio. So, shooting with MS Stereo, ORTF, spaced omnis, binaural, and basically figuring out all these different ways to capture sound in all kinds of wild environments. And eventually, I translated that into how I capture music with these same sort of stereo sound gathering techniques, not necessarily close miking everything, but letting sort of the recording breathe a bit more, also capturing musicians and artists in natural environments without retakes and overdubs. So it's a much different experience than being in the studio recording with me, which is why I think it offers the audience a much different way to enjoy their favorite band or musician, to experience it in a truly organic, stripped down, like not using any sort of monitors or PA. It's like, all right, how do we sound good to each other acoustically in a room? Even if you've got an electric guitar, it might be just going through an amp that's turned at the appropriate level to balance naturally with the singer that might be in the room, or asking the drummer to play super quietly and more dynamically than they might be used to. And it really offers an opportunity for the musicians to approach their music and to listen to each other in a way that they may never have before, with all the niceties of in-ear monitors and separate mixes for everybody, or wedge monitors and overdubs. So it's a much different way of approaching, capturing music. I'm much more interested in capturing a moment in time.
It's organic. And in a certain sense, it's got a lot more in common with old school, and that's what I really love about it, because to my mind, as we progressed, technologically speaking, as we progressed to overdubs, there was less and less spontaneity, and there was less and less of the artist really, like all of them bringing their A game.
That's right. I mean, there's no place to hide. You have to be a good musician. I'm not usually using any sort of auto-tune or anything like that, other than just like balancing the levels and making as good of a recording as I possibly can. The rest is really up to the musicians to kind of bring their A game. So, there's not a lot of crutches that you can rely on with the types of recordings that I'm making. And I'm not really interested in replacing all these wonderful studio recordings that are happening that are incredible. I'm more interested in supplementing what's already out there with a different approach that could possibly be really refreshing for the audience.
So what are you looking for when you find an artist? I mean, obviously you're looking for artists that are self-contained in that sense, right? That can pull it off live.
That's right. So I've been holding contests online on Instagram. Like I traveled to Chile, and I had this Instagram hashtag Global Sound Chile.
I've seen a couple of those.
And and I had a collaborator who reached a really big audience of musicians and studio engineer nerdy type folks. And the post went totally viral. I thought we'd get, maybe we'll get 10, 20 submissions, and we'll see how it goes. We ended up getting over 1,000.
Wow.
Just like 1-minute clips on Instagram, and I was able to go through many of them. And a lot of people from other countries were like, hey, when are you coming to Colombia? When are you coming to Argentina? And it kind of opened my eyes to like the possibility of just like discovering musicians that might not otherwise be discovered and recording them in their natural environment where they grew up at a place that is significantly meaningful to them and their music, to help try and tell a little bit of a deeper story rather than just like, hey, here's this great band playing some cool music in a cool location, but actually capturing them where they're from.
And there's so much talent out there that really is overlooked, you know, outside of the music cities, quote unquote.
It's an embarrassment of riches. I mean, everywhere I've gone, there's always good music, you know, because it's just so
It's what
ingrained.
binds us together.
That's
man,
right.
you know?
So, yeah, I love recording super talented, famous people, of course, but I'm just as happy, you know, recording a really passionate, excellent band from, you know, Guadalajara, Mexico, where I've been, or even Brisbane, Australia, where I've been, or Mexico City, where I recorded some really interesting folks.
That's right. You did the thing with John Crivet, the music expo down there, right?
Yeah. With John Crivet, we did the Pan American Audio Educators Conference, and while I was down there, we went to Tec de Monterrey, where I've given some workshops as well. They're such a great university, and I was able to give a workshop and then run off and record a musician that I found called Andre Beltran. We met at this incredible park called Park de Coatzacoalcos.
You just saw him playing at the park, or what?
No, I was like asking friends in Baja where my parents live, hey, you know, do you know of any place in Mexico City that's sort of like iconic, but not everybody necessarily knows about it, that could sort of tell the story of Mexico City? And they mentioned this park, and I looked it up, and it was, you know, by appointment only. I was like, I don't know how we're going to get permission to record there. And someone recommended I record this musician called Andre Beltran and his friend El Mulu. And as luck would have it, when I mentioned Park de Coatzacoalcos to him, he said, I have a friend, I think she's a photographer for them. So everything kind of came to fruition. We got the permission. We recorded in this stunning location. And that was like the first Global Sound concert that came out.
Yeah, that's cool. And I mean, obviously you are well versed in this whole idea of when you're recording live like that. You know, I was always fascinated, like, I remember seeing the old Motown studios. And I mean, it's a really, really tiny room. And to think, you know, they had 12, 14, 18 people in there. Somebody wants to be louder, they step forward,
That's
you
right.
know. And that is really, I mean, that's the way music used to be played.
Yeah. It's kind of like it's definitely a flashback to, hey, what does it sound like if we just put up one ribbon mic and everyone sings around it and gets different distances from the mic? And my predecessor, Kevin Waite at Tiny Desk, you know, he had the one stereo MS shotgun mic, and he would place the band Wilco. Okay, can you come a little bit closer? You gotta, let's get the drums off to the side. All right, when you're doing your singing, you really got to step up into the mic. So you really have to work more proactively with the musicians to get the balance right, because you're really relying on that natural recording. And then of course, as the years went on, I added a bunch of channels and supplemented, but the overall sound and concept is still of not close miking it, having like an overall stereo image, and then supplementing that stereo recording with individual lines to make certain musical things kind of pop out where you want them to.
Yeah, there's a producer I know in the Bay Area, John Cuniberti, and he does these things called one mic recordings, and he takes an AEA stereo ribbon mic and puts them around it. So you essentially have 4 channels. You know, left, right, front, back. And he'll do the same thing. And again, I love that concept because you really get this organic performance.
I love it too. And the musicians really have to pay attention to how they sound in relation to each other in a way that you don't necessarily have to when you're just like in an ISO booth.
Yeah, and I think that's really, I think that speaks to really something that we were talking about earlier, that's almost endemic to this day and age, where people are so in their screens that they don't have this degree of human contact that we used to have. And I think the idea of getting musicians, encouraging musicians to work together that way it's not just of value to the music, it's of value to humanity.
It's fun for the musicians too.
Sure,
like,
of course.
You know, Post Malone comes into the Tiny Desk with his pretty big band.
Uh-huh.
Like, and you know, they had to sort of like figure out how to do it without monitors, and maybe they rehearsed in their hotel room or whatever. But I think they had such a sense of joy coming and trying something different and new after being on tour for however many months and having all that tech, you know, with you every night to make your job possible, just to like kind of toss it all aside, cram into the corner, cram into a corner of an office, and get back down to just like the bare necessity, and see if they could pull it off. And they did. With, you know, they offered also something for their fans, a different style of recording that they can enjoy.
Cool. So tell me about what you're doing here in New York now.
I just started at the New York Public Library, where I'm figuring out how to run events and the programming for their incredible, free to use with a library card after some training, Studio 40. And at Studio 40, they have, you know, incredible classes that you can take in Logic and in Pro Tools and in studio usage, and it's all for free as long as you're willing to put in the time, you know, to get trained and to figure it out. And I'm hoping to bring and supplement the studio recording and post-production with some field sound recording classes, and hopefully, you know, create a series for patrons where we can like record them in unique locations that isn't necessarily the recording studio.
Right.
And maybe build a video series for the library.
So are you thinking about maybe doing events like in New York? I mean, I know New York's a hell of a noisy environment, but...
Yeah, you know, there's 92 branches of the New York Public Library. And that's just Manhattan, Staten Island, and the Bronx, because Queens has their own library system. And Brooklyn has their own library system. But I think there's possibilities for collaboration. So, you know, maybe it's a matter of finding patrons who are musicians out in these, you know, locations that aren't necessarily Midtown Manhattan, and to really feature all these incredible buildings. I did a concert for Global Sound Concerts in Astor Hall, you know, behind the Lions, Patience and Fortitude on Fifth Avenue. You walk into this incredible hall with marble everywhere. And I had a good friend I'd recorded before, Little Cruda, and her 6-piece string ensemble play some original music, which just sounded so cavernous in there. And set up the ambisonic mic from Soyuz, and working with someone at Marshmallow Sounds, Klaus Trelby, to do some immersive mixing for, hopefully we'll eventually end up on YouTube with this new Eclipse format. So
you're not really using traditional audio equipment. You're using mostly location kind of stuff. And
that's right. Mostly like sound devices or Zoom, you know, audio recorders, field recorders.
And just doing multi-channel.
Yeah, multi-channel, just tracking things clean, and then transferring them into Pro Tools is my DAW of choice, just because that's what I learned on, and putting on some nice plugins and not over compressing and making it sound really tasteful, and using my ear to make it sound as sort of hyper realistic as possible.
I mean, New York is the place to find just a wealth of different kinds of music too, I would think, huh?
We'll see. I would imagine, yeah.
I'm guessing you're going to find a lot of different stuff here, a lot of really interesting stuff, because it's so diverse.
That's right.
This is a city I grew up in, and I mean, I know there's just so many people from all over the world here.
And a lot of young people who are coming through the library and Studio 40, and I'm wondering, what kind of talent's going to walk through the door. You never know.
Interesting. Man, you really, I mean, this seems like a really interesting gig for you, you know?
Yeah.
Basically, you know, with all of the past stuff you've done. So out of everything that you've done, I mean, obviously this is almost like a culmination of all that stuff.
That's right. It's like time to pay it forward, so to speak. I feel like I've had incredible luck in my 25-year career as a audio journalist and then doing Tiny Desk for almost 10 years. And now it's kind of time to create my own magic, and that's what I've been doing with Global Sound Concerts, which has been an absolute thrill to travel and to do that, and then to bring some of that energy and excitement to the library is going to be really interesting.
Well, you know what I like also is that you have a philosophy that I always really value, which is just say yes. You know, like I may not know what I'm doing, but just jump in, right? And
That's right.
You know, and that's what's led you to doing all the things you've been doing, obviously, you know?
Yeah.
So what do you tell younger people coming into it now? What do you tell 15-year-old you now?
Oh, wow. You just say yes to everything. I mean, that's what, it's kind of cliche, but, you know, if an opportunity presents itself, I remember, you know, recording congressional hearings on cassette tape for transcription purposes.
Whoa.
And I said yes, even though my recordings were probably just going to one person typing. But I was like, hey, I'm still using an XLR cable. I'm plugging it into a mult box, and I'm making a recording and writing the first word of whoever's speaking for the transcriber. And, you know, I'm sure I learned something in that little task. Patience, anything, you know.
Patience and fortitude.
Yeah, and fortitude. that led me to be able to do, you know, that helped inform other opportunities. So even if you know, like, I loved growing up making and recording my own music for fun. And when I became an audio engineer, I said yes to running the soundboard for news radio or for live theater for Shakespeare in Washington, D.C. at the Shakespeare Theater, which was like my first full-time, real grown-up gig. Even though it wasn't in a recording studio recording musicians, there was still so much that informed my future self by taking the gig in theater. It taught me how to hide microphones in baseball caps or in hairlines so that actors always stay on mic. And I borrowed that when I was doing audio journalism, and I would bring baseball caps and attach mics to the end of the caps so that when we're climbing over ancient ruins in Greece leading up to the 2004 Olympics, I have the archaeologist always on mic because of a technique that I learned in the theater. And then, of course, all of the stereo sound gathering techniques I learned doing radio expeditions with National Geographic and NPR, I then applied to capturing music. And that led to the sound design that I helped develop after my friend Kevin Waite had the MS stereo mic, and I started supplementing that. It helped me create and inform what I ended up doing for Tiny Desk, which then helped me inform what I wanted to do with Global Sound Concerts, which is kind of taking the same concept of how I record things beyond the desk.
One thing always leads to another, basically.
Yeah. Exactly. Awesome. So say yes to everything. That's basically the advice that I would have. And even though you don't think it's your dream gig, it might turn into something.
Yeah, exactly. Awesome. Josh Rogosin, thank you for being my guest.
Thanks, Daniel. Appreciate being here. Thanks for asking me.
Hey, I'm Daniel Keller. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button and join us each week for Insights in Sound.